So we were talking about landed cost and what the fundamentals of what's happening here. So I'm going to just recap because you wanted this recorded. It's very important to be thinking about property rights, and property rights are the fundamentals of what's happening. So if you think through any of these problems that you're in, if you know you're thinking about property rights, you come to the right conclusions. So in this case, we're talking about property rights, which is who owns in this case, the good that you're trying to acquire. As you try to bring a good towards you so that you can acquire capacity. Capacity is the thing that you're offering to your customers. You're always offering your customer something. In our business, our capacity is your mind, your intellectual capacity. I don't inventory because at no moment in time I can't own you. Okay, I can't own you. I can't own people, right? Because we say slavery is outlawed, right? So I can't. Well, of course, we believe that, right? Because I don't own your body. I don't own your mind. But that is what we fundamentally are offering our clients, is your mind, and thus we offer it in terms of hours. But I can't inventory it because I don't own you. But we can own goods, products, and things like that. So when we buy products, we're fundamentally thinking about the purchasing, and we are going, well, what's the purchase cost of the item? And that's really easy to understand. It's the price of the good. But then there's the good, there's the extra costs that come right into it. The first one, the traditional one, is the cost of freight to move the good to you so you can hold it. But other costs can come up. There could be duties or tariffs or taxes that are imposed by a government, especially in international shipments. There could be insurance, and then clients or customers do sophisticated things such as they may say, hey, I already have some raw materials, Mr. Manufacturer. Let me ship that to you. Please mix your labor with it and maybe source some other things and then bring me back that finished good. And it's kind of, that's complicated because we've moved around a finished good, and we're not saying that they own it. They're saying that they're using it, something I own, right? So it's kind of sophisticated kind of flow. But landed cost is the category of all costs beyond the material cost that brings something into inventory. And then we said, okay, well, what is inventory? Well, inventory is anything that we store that we want to offer our customers that we own. And I distinguished a finished good from a work in progress good, because a finished good, it's ready to go. I can just hand it to you. Whereas a work in process is something that we're in the process of becoming a finished good that we need to do more work on before I can hand it over. All those things
but it's still valuable. So that's
still valuable, right?
Yeah.
And that's why that all sits on what we call the balance sheet, because we need to know how much capacity we're holding. And then there's a different question about just how that capacity loses its value in the marketplace over time. And that's called an inventory obsolescence concern. I'm not bringing that up here because that's we're talking about landed cost. But you asked something about, well, wait a minute, when I transfer it over to the customers, right? Well, the traditional way we're transferring things over to the customers through a sale. So in our sale, we are oftentimes making offers. I'm going to give you the asset. Here's the price of that asset. That'll typically be on a sales order. It represents the price. And then I'm going to charge you for shipping, and that's another line for shipping. So we distinguish those things out. When we look at inventory, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to quote unquote capitalize assets. We're trying to make sure that the inventory asset contains all the cost that went into it to bring it onto our books. So it sits in that asset, versus when we bought the asset, there was the material price, but separately they told us what the freight price is. Well, if we let that freight price be separated from it, we're not truly understanding the full end cost of what that inventory was. Thus, we're not appreciating the full cost that was required to get that inventory there. And when we sell the inventory, if we're not holding, if we don't burden the inventory with the extra cost that it took to get here, we think we made more money on it when we really didn't, right? Because when we compare our sale price to our cost price, that's the whole philosophy around it. Okay, and that mechanism of having inventory become burden is called capitalization. That's the technical term. Okay, so now in NetSuite, what NetSuite's done is they've created a landed cost system to do this. And the basic philosophy that NetSuite does around this is, at the time of item receipt, when you receive the good, they give you a way to burden more costs. And they're burdening the more cost either at the header or the line.
Okay.
If we think about freight, I might have taken a bunch of costs in, and they maybe represented 3 different products, so it's 3 different lines, but they said the cost of the entire shipment was $25.
Right.
So at the header, I could say spread the $25 across all the lines. That would be a
Right.
header approach. But then there could be line-based costs. Maybe they say on one of those items, there's a Trump tariff on it. Now, and so we got to bump up the cost by 15%. Well, I can identify it's not all 3, it's just that one. That's line-based burdening or line
Right.
costs. Okay. But NetSuite's philosophy around this is we need to burden it at the time of item receipt.
Okay.
Now, what the problem with that is at the time of item receipt, the item receipt is truly a logistics around quantity. It's not really a logistic around cost. That's why NetSuite organizes itself around the purchase order cost to say, I don't know really what I'm going to charge, but I'm going to use the planning price that you used, which is on the purchase order price, to say that's what the cost is. What you're really paying attention to when you do a receiving operation is the quantity.
Yeah.
Okay, well then what happens is people often get bills in from like a freight forwarder or a shipping organization or something like that, and they get it later. And then what people have to then do is they have to go, oh, I got this big freight bill for $1,000. I got to find the item receipts that it applies to, and they start editing the item receipts. Well, guess what? What if the books are closed?
Yeah,
You know,
then
you close your books on the 30th. You have all
Yeah.
kinds of issues, right? And what starts happening is NetSuite's smart enough that if you change an item receipt that's backdated and you burden it with more cost, it'll trickle through all those costs through everything, but your financials start changing.
Right.
Basic way I've suggested as the best practice around this is to, just like anything in the world, if you're going to be a more powerful organization, you move from an orientation that's reactive to proactive. So you want to be better planners. So you can estimate out your landed cost and use the estimates as your way to capitalize, which means, okay, so what's the basis for your estimates? So the work we're going to do is how to use estimates so that at the time of the item receipt, we will automatically burden the item receipt with our estimates.
Right.
And that's the main thing we're trying to do. So we've been able to develop a number of algorithms where we've done this. Some of them are quite sophisticated. Others have just been one-offs that we've done for our clients. It's been more recent that I've said, okay, we're really going to develop a bundle that is our Prolecto landed cost applications. And thus, I'm anticipating a number of models, patterns we've seen with other organizations. This new algorithm represents my best thinking for a particular type of problem that I've outlined that I want to work with you on. And I'm calling that purchase order driven estimated landed cost because we want the purchase order to be driving. There's other ways to kind of know what your estimates are coming from, but in this one, we want to use the purchase order to do it.
Right.